What's up, YouTube? It's me, Josh, from the Average Josh Podcast, which ain't really much of a podcast. Like I said, I got a wife, I got 3 kids. I can't make long form content, and I'm pretty sure podcasts are long form content. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just gonna keep making my little short videos, doing my little thing, man, and we'll just go from there. I'll rock out with my little 300 subscribers, so you can subscribe to this channel if you want to, but you ain't got to. It is what it is. But today I just want to talk about Errol Spence Jr., man. So Errol Spence Jr., I ain't gonna lie, he's my favorite fighter. He's my favorite fighter. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. I might be a tad bit biased towards him, but I'll try to be as fair and as unbiased as possible, man. I love the dude's attitude. I love the dude's fighting style. I don't love him as a person because I don't know the nigga, but I like his fighting style, and I like his attitude that he has towards fighting. But so Errol Spence Jr. obviously didn't get the fight with Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford went ahead and went to BLK prom and had to fight with David Avenesian. Now Errol Spence Jr. is moving up to 154 pounds, and he's allegedly facing Keith Thurman. I don't know if that's true or not yet. It seems like it's going that way. Hopefully the fight gets across the finish line, but I don't want to hold my breath. It's boxing. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, like I was saying, at 154, there are a whole bunch of interesting fights that I would love to see Errol Spence in. I'd probably say the number one fight that I'd want to see him fight would be against his stablemate, undisputed 154 champion Jermell Charlo. I would love to see that fight. Honestly, I would really, really, really love to see him against Brian Castano, because Brian Castano he's not going to back down from Errol Spence. He went right at Jermell Charlo, and he gave Jermell Charlo a hell of a fight during that first fight, and then I think he got a little bit outclassed because Jermell Charlo was able to make way more adjustments than Brian Castano, and Brian Castano being a relatively one-dimensional fighter who pretty much has to come forward due to the dimensions of his body and the weight class in which he's fighting at. And there wasn't really too much that he could really do to negate Jermell Charlo in that second fight. He ended up wilting at the end. He pretty much crumbled at the end, and Charlo got the victory, got the TKO victory. But I would love to see that fight against him and Errol Spence, because we don't know how good Errol Spence is at 154 pounds. Errol Spence Jr. is a big 147 pounder. Some people call him a weight bully. Honestly, I think that if you make the weight, you're not a weight bully. You know what I'm saying? But he's a big 147 pounder. Like lately, every time he gets on the scale to make weight, the dude looks like a skeleton. The dude be flexing his muscles up there on the scale. You don't see nothing, man. His face all sunk in, eyes all googly and shit, man. It looks like a damn zombie or something. Looks like he should be in Thriller, going like this or something. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I would love to see him in a fight against Brian Castano. I think that would be an excellent fight. I think that Brian Castano would take the fight to him. I think it'll look very similar to kind of how the fight against him and Sean Porter went, where they were just both like really in that phone booth, just boom, 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 banging out punches on each other, taking a lot of shots, giving a lot of shots, and then at the end you started to see Sean Porter wilt a little bit, and Errol was able to kind of ink out that fight. So yeah, I would definitely love to see that fight, just because that's a great stylistic matchup that I would definitely love to see. And I think Errol, he's the type of person who he really likes to bring the fight to his opponents. I think Charlo does too, but I think Errol would be more willing to bring the fight to Castano, because he seems like the type of fighter where he's all like, he wants to beat him at his own game, and that's kind of Errol's game too. I'm not saying that Charlo's bad at all at infighting. I just would love to see Errol have a shot at Castano. Also, let's go ahead and talk about the Keith Thurman fight. Now, with the Keith Thurman fight Keith Thurman against Errol, I kind of don't really see that going Keith Thurman's way. Keith Thurman, as he's aged and as he's had a lot of injuries, just like Errol, but Errol seems to be the one to be able to come back pretty strong after having a long layoff. And Keith Thurman, he seems to have kind of lost a step, and also he seems to lately, or actually a lot in his career, but more so lately, he seems to be very vulnerable to getting punched in the body, which is Errol's bread and butter. So if you have someone like Keith Thurman coming from 147 up to 154, You know, it may be less strain on his body to not have to do the weight cut at this age, but also he has to carry that extra weight. Once he rehydrates, it might affect his movement a little bit. And he's someone who heavily relies on his movement. He heavily relies on his timing. He heavily relies on his sharp reflexes. So it might take that down a little bit, which kind of moves things into Errol's favor. Also in regards to Keith Thurman, since he is vulnerable to his body, and Errol is like probably the best body puncher in boxing right now, that's really going to play into Errol's hands as well. So if you combine the factor that he may or may not be slowed down by the extra weight that he's carrying, Errol is going to be an exceptional body puncher. Errol's already big at 147 pounds, so not having to go through that drastic weight cut, he might be a little bit more comfortable at 154 pounds. It doesn't look good for Keith Thurman, but I also do think that Keith Thurman is an underrated fighter. Because Keith Thurman kind of got hurt against Mario Barrios to the body, because Keith Thurman lost to Manny Pacquiao later on in his career, because Keith Thurman has had some pretty long layoffs, you know, I think people have forgot how good of a fighter Keith Thurman is. He's an excellent fighter. He has excellent footwork. He has power in both hands. He has a great ring and boxing IQ. I think that he has what it takes to make a fight somewhat competitive with Errol Spence, but I think being your first fight at 154 pounds and fighting Errol Spence at 154 does not necessarily play into his, you know, strengths. Also, let's talk about Mauricio Sulaiman over here. Yeah, he just be making shit up, bro. I don't understand. Like, I know boxing is corrupt, right? I know that. You know that. I know that. We all know that boxing is corrupt. But the stuff that Mauricio Sulaiman be doing, it's just like, he don't give a damn, bro. He just literally, like, he just makes rules up. He'll make belts up. He'll say, because the way that the WBC is organized, it's kind of like he has that board of 31 members or whatever that he has to listen to, or that he has to consult with, but he doesn't necessarily have to listen to. Since he's the president, the dude could just basically just like take executive orders and just make stuff up. So honestly, if Charlo decides to go up to 160 and Errol stays at 154 and they don't fight and he gives up those belts, I could honestly, you know that Errol's going to get the first shot at that WBC belt. That just is what it is. Because, like I said, Mauricio Sulaiman, he doesn't care about, you know, he doesn't care about the rules. He doesn't care about having, like, the rules evenly and justly applied to everyone. All he cares about is money. If there's a big fight to be made, if there's a big fighter who's a big draw, who makes money, he'll make an exception for you. He'll put this person in the rankings. He'll talk with this promoter and give this guy a franchise belt. He really doesn't care. So you know that Errol's gonna get a chance to fight for that belt if Charlo were to relinquish it. And I think I would really love to see like either him or Brian Castano fight for it, or him and Sebastian Fundora fight for it. Like I said, I'm not really too big on the Danny Garcia fight rematch, just because if Danny Garcia couldn't beat him at 147, I don't really see him having that much of a better chance at 154. I know he said he was having a lot of mental health issues, which I don't doubt. But I want to see what he can. I want to see what all of these fighters can do more, and I want to see what he can do more at 154 before he gets a rematch with Errol Spence, if he ever does get the rematch. But honestly, I don't really care to see it. I like Danny Garcia, but he's going to have to beat someone like Erickson Lubin. He's going to have to beat someone like Brian Castano, someone like Tony Harrison at 154 before I'm able to just be like, okay, I want to see the rematch with Errol Spence, because I don't see it going much differently at 154. But when it comes to his fights at 147, if he were to go back to 147, everybody knows we want to see him in a fight with Boots, you know, because that's what everybody's been saying. Because Boots, until he got into that last fight he had with Kareem, where he was basically punching air and the dude was moving all across the ring and stuff, he was pretty much looking like Superman. He's pretty much looking like, all right, you need to go ahead and get this dude out the way now, Spence. You need to go ahead and get this dude out the way now, Crawford, because you ain't getting no younger. You might not be able to do it later when he has more experience. But of course, I want to see the fight with Boots. I would absolutely love to see that fight. But I think the fight that I'm leaning a little bit more towards, even though I would love to see the fight with Boots, is the fight with Ortiz. with Virgil Ortiz Jr. That would be a big fight. They're both from Texas, so they're bringing two different fan bases, and they both have a very similar fighting style. Like, you can't like the stuff that Spence does and not like the stuff that Virgil Ortiz Jr. does. And if those guys come in at each other and they're just like beating the shit out of each other, fully action-packed fight, you know, they're both trying to take dominance. I would love to see that fight as well. So there's a lot of avenues for Spence to go, you know, because I don't know. Honestly, I'm not gonna hold my breath on the Crawford fight. I'm not. You know, there's too much stuff that went wrong with that. You know, Crawford trying to make too many demands. The PBC not really offering Crawford any type of guaranteed money when they know that's all he ever wanted was guaranteed money. So I don't know. So when it comes to that, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I would absolutely love to see them fight at 147 for undisputed. But honestly, I don't even know who Crawford's gonna fight next, to be honest. Like, cause if he's still with BOK Prime, I don't know who they're gonna get. Hopefully they get someone good to face him, because I like seeing Terence Crawford fight. Like, I'm not a Terence Crawford hater like some people are. Just because you like Errol Spence doesn't mean you have to hate Terence Crawford. I'm a boxing fan above anything else, so I definitely would absolutely love to see Terence Crawford in a good fight. I just don't know. I'm just not familiar with BOK Prime since they're a relatively new organization. Hopefully he did a one-fight deal with them, then he could maybe go be a free agent and do a deal with someone else. But, you know, that's all I gotta say. I would love to see Errol fight Charlo, number 1, at 154. Number 2, I would like to see him fight Sebastian Fundora, because that would be just like a crazy matchup. 3 would probably be Brian Castano. And then 4 would be Keith Thurman, would be someone like Erickson Lubin, would be someone like Tony Harrison. But let's go ahead. Hopefully he gets this fight with Keith Thurman. Hopefully it's a great fight. Hopefully Keith Thurman does much better in the fight than I'm expecting him to do, and it's a great fight. Hopefully it's not like that Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith fight, where it's all like I was expecting to be there for a while, then the fight ended in the 4th round. Hopefully it's not that. I don't think it will be that. I don't think it, like no, it won't be, because I give Keith Thurman a lot of credit. Like, I don't think he's gonna get flatlined in the 4th round. That's not gonna happen. But that's all I gotta say about that, man. Hopefully there's some great fights coming up. Hopefully this year does not disappoint. Hopefully we see Spence back in action. Hopefully the Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence fight goes through. And I don't know. I'm out.